Let's be honest about this. When we're out walking in the hills and the fells, we all occasionally struggle to find our way to somewhere. It doesn't mean to say that you're lost. You know, you're not lost. You know the area that you're in. You know where you started. You know where you're going. You're just not quite sure that you're heading in the right direction. So today I want to go through how to follow a bearing, also known as an azimuth, and what to do if you find that you've lost the trail. One of the main things that people use a compass for is to follow a bearing from somewhere to somewhere else. It doesn't matter how, for today, how you got your bearing. You could have got it off a map, somebody could have told you, or you could have used your compass to sight the bearing. Either way, just for today, it doesn't matter. We'll say that we're going to follow a bearing of 1, 2, 3 degrees, and we're heading off in that direction. So, how do you actually do that? First of all, you need to set your compass to 1, 2, 3 degrees. So I'll just quickly run through and just as a quick recap. I know most of you already know how to do this. I'm going to be using a lensatic compass today and a base plate compass. To set the compass bearing on a lensatic compass, sorry if you already know this, but I'll just whiz through it quickly. Simply rotate the whole compass until 1, 2, 3 degrees on the dial is directly underneath the index line, and then rotate the bezel until the tritium mark, which is this thing here, is, let's wait till the dial stops moving, there you go, until it's directly over the north end of the magnetic needle. To do the same thing with a base plate compass, all you're going to use is you're going to use the index mark. If you look at the dial, there's a small black line that doesn't move. So all we're going to do is set 1, 2, 3 directly underneath the index line, which is there. Rotate the compass until the north end of the magnetic needle is directly over the orienting arrow, and then we're going to follow the direction arrow, which is here, so we're going to go in that direction. So that's our compass set at 123 degrees. So how do you actually use that to head off in the right direction? Well, what you do is, I'll point it at the camera, even though 123 degrees is that way. Let's use the lensatic. All I do is, my compass is here, I walk the wire, as it said, so I go from the dial towards the wire, or if I'm using a base plate compass, I would follow the direction arrow. So I point it, keeping the compass level, and hopefully that will point at my ultimate destination. If I can see it, there it is, and I just set off and I go to it. Normally that doesn't happen. We're never that lucky. So what I need to do is I need to do it in a number of legs. A leg is just a section of an overall route. So as an example, if you look behind me, there's a dry stone wall. So what I do is I would take my bearing towards the dry stone wall, and I'd walk to something that is exactly on 123 degrees from here to there. And then when I get to the dry stone wall, I'll do the same again. So let's go over there and then see what happens after that. So here I am, I've arrived at the hole in the wall. So this is the end of the first leg of my journey. What I do now is I choose something else that's along my bearing that's easily identifiable, and I walk to it, and then I keep on doing that, leapfrogging until I get to my destination. Well, that's what all the instruction manuals will tell you to do. But let's take this back to a real world situation. If you look behind me, after the wall, there literally isn't anything that I can see that's along the bearing. It's just moorland. It's just grass, basically. So what do I do now? I still want to go in the right direction, but there's nothing that I can walk towards. Luckily, there is a way to do this. What you do is, if you can see something that's sort of in the right direction, you can walk towards that. If you can't see anything, as in the case here, then all you do, set your compass at 1, 2, 3 degrees and just head off in that direction somehow. It doesn't really matter where you go to. The main thing is you must always be able to see your last known position. So I need to always be able to see this hole in the wall. So I'll walk for a couple of 100 meters, I'll stop, and then I'll turn around and look at this hole in the wall, and I'll show you what we do next. So I'm sort of heading in the right direction, I'm not quite sure. But I've arrived at this point here, and if I look behind me, I can still see the hole in the wall where I set off from. Now, the compass manufacturers' websites will tell you now that you need to do a back bearing, which involves some maths. And because it's 123 degrees, you need to add 180 degrees. So that will be 303 degrees. So you need to set your compass at 303. There is a much simpler way of doing that. I'll show you on the lensatic and also on the base plate. To use the lensatic compass in reverse, at the moment 123 is underneath the index mark and the tritium mark is directly over the top of the north end of the magnetic needle. All we're going to do is rotate the whole compass until the south end of the magnetic needle is directly underneath the tritium mark, like that. And to do the same with a base plate compass, all we're going to do, instead of having the north end of the needle over the orienting arrow, we're going to just rotate the whole compass until the south needle, the south end of the needle, on silver compasses it's painted white, so the south end of the needle is now directly over the orienting arrow. So now we know how to set our compasses basically in reverse. All we need to do is we point our compass at the hole in the wall, and it should be directly, with a base plate compass, the white end of the needle should be directly underneath the orienting arrow, or with a lensatic compass, the south end of the needle should be directly underneath the tritium mark. If it's not, then what you need to do is you need to walk at right angles, so that way or that way, until you're back on your bearing, until the south end of the needle on both compasses is telling you that you're back on your bearing. Anyway, that's how to regain the trail, your bearing, if you step off it slightly. Sorry about the sound quality today. Let's just say, as you can see from the behind me, it's quite windy today, so thanks for watching.